KT, you can never really count them out of disappointing you, but let's do it. Let's get into champion select for game number 1. Kingzone, the LCK champions versus KT, the should-be champions of the last 2 years.
And the blue side is always where we usually see the most targeted bans. We see a first ban on the Gragas, a flex ban, but mostly at score, and it's a double score ban already. Peanut seems to be setting himself up for a good jungle matchup here. Peanut will be starting, no Cuz in game number 1, like we did against Griffin. I think it's the right choice. Historically, Peanut has had a very good matchup against Score in the past couple of years. Was bossed around by him in 2015, but everyone else was too. 2016 as well. Zooming in on this one though, final ban here. So far 2 jungle bans. And 3 jungle bans.
Trundle first pick is looking extremely likely here. KT will then be able to potentially get the Nocturne Shen, but Nocturne Shen has not been that strong recently.
But by KT, maybe they're one of the teams that can actually pull the trigger on it, because Trundle first pick is 100% guaranteed.
Yep.
If you guys are joining us for the first time this week, the Nocturne priority has gone way down because teams have been losing with it pretty consistently. I think KT takes Nocturne Shen as a duo. They'll certainly pick up the Shen for Mada.
I think the Shen is guaranteed, but now do they decide to go for something else? Because Swain is still available as well, and that can actually get Shen through a laning phase.
Don't really care about Kingzone picking up the Swain. The thing to talk about is Kha'Zix is taken.
Okay, Score, let's go.
I did predict a Kha'Zix yesterday. It's one day late, but
you thought that it was going to be Umpty, though, let's be honest.
It's true. Score is going to pull out his old Kha'Zix pick here. Galio mid lane being threatened by KT. They used to love this duo. The reason why I wanted to jump in is that Tahm Kench and an AD carry is available to Kingzone. You could take Tahm Kench Ezreal here.
You could.
The Genji duo very happily. And KT have given that up. I thought they might take away, say, a Varus, for example. Try to deny ultra lane priority. Kingzone will hover the Tahm Kench. But let's see if they actually select it here. The Swain flex pick happens. They didn't look good using Swain against Griffin a couple of days ago. It should be mentioned.
Yeah. So going over to Prey does make you a little bit worried as a Kingzone fan. 7 seconds to go. Alistar being considered a very beefy comp already being built by Kingzone. We saw Tucson yesterday navigate with the Alistar very, very effectively. Now, KT, what are they going to lock in? I feel like you're exactly right on the Galio. It looks like a pretty surefire way of getting in there, but the Ezreal going to be picked away instead.
Doesn't have to be a first-round pick, and you could consider something like an Orianna as well. Speaking of Orianna, is available at this point, would be a strong pick into the fairly melee bruiser-focused Kingzone comp.
Might be a way of allowing Score to survive a little bit more as well. He can leap in and then have the shield from the Command Protect and the CC from the Shockwave to help him out.
So right now, looking like complete bot lanes and junglers have been picked up, but there is the ambiguity about the Swain. Prey's been playing it recently. BDD had good games on it in the past, but regardless, the flex pick is on there. Swain and Alistar, a strong duo. Waiting to see what Kingzone want to focus on in terms of solo lane play. The Orianna will be banned. Will the second ban just be Galio to try to give those indirect tankiness options to the Kha'Zix a ban?
I feel like that's a good idea. Yukal, a lot of the champions that he likes to play have been picked up as the Kai'Sa. Going to be banned away, and you were talking to me about this earlier. You had a feeling in your bones about seeing some more Kai'Sa play here today. It's going to be on the ban list for game number 1, but it feels like that priority certainly is there in the minds of at least KT for this match.
And definitely we heard interviews yesterday where they were just like, well, we saw it win, so therefore we're going to play it now, is what we were hearing yesterday. So definitely there'll be more Kai'Sa attempts. Azir ban, actually.
Wow, okay.
Azir versus Orianna is very likely to happen, but both of them banned away. Does mean that Swain's laning phase is a bit safer. Both these champions can poke out Swain and can be very irritating for a Swain comp to deal with. So you start to think that maybe BDD will be jumping on that. No guarantees, though.
That is true. But Yukal does have the Galio available to him. Looks like Smeb is going to be locking away the Gnar, though, as his comfort pick on the top side of the map. It will be blind. As Kingzone now to work out exactly what they want to put into the top side of the map to augment their team composition already. Could be more tankiness, but
Varus Jace would be a power draft on the blue side.
And a lot of poke potential coming out from Kingzone. Gives them some siege options as well with a very low range initial draft. The Cho'Gath going to come out once again. It's played for the first time by Khan in the last series. He didn't find a win on it.
Very good early game in the Cho'Gath versus Gnar matchup. He's going to return to it rather than going for something as bold as the Jace today. after that Jace lost a few days ago. The cannon was also open into the
Wow.
Gnar. Kalista would be a very cool pick to see come back. I've been thinking that Kalista Thresh could make a return as a duo. Alistar and Kalista, with the Shen being revealed as a support, as a possibility, and Prey returns to a pick he played at MSI, but has been played very sparingly in summer season.
It has, but certainly does work out with the composition and gives Gorilla so many more tools in order to get in there. Kingzone have engaged for days, and they can tank up KT forever, and that's exactly what you want to do when you've got a Kalista comp. Wanting to get those resets, needing the peel, as Yukao thinking about hopping on the Malzahar, and thinking about preventing Prey from hopping anywhere.
Trying to evolve it into a pick comp here. Could have gone for Galio, but they don't want to take that particular risk and still play on the front foot with the Malzahar and the Kha'Zix as well. KT going to comps of old. It's not quite a Rumble draft, but it is very much a more squishier lineup that KT always seems to prefer. They're not so much about going for dual tank threats, even though Gnar and Shen can mostly fit the bill there. They will have priority in the top side. Bot lane's going to be very interesting, whether it comes to leashes or who gets access to the minion wave first. That could be oh so central. Kingzone have very little range, but they do have, as you mentioned, insane team fighting and so much synergy with this passive from the Swain. They double banned against Swain mid lane, saying we want to get a decent laning phase. They'll definitely find one against the Malzahar.
Yeah, and if you're going to make an analogy about it, it feels like it's a steamroller versus a sports car here for Kingzone versus KT. Kingzone slow moving.
Well, no point cheering if we're going to have a pause, says the cheerleader.
All right. Well, we'll hold off on that, and we'll try to get it coming back in. There's an audio. Damn right, there's an audio issue. I'm pretty sure it was the audio issue of the cheerleader. They stopped halfway through, and they needed to pause.
No.
Oh God, no! The headset howling issue. I feel like this only happens. Is it only with Kingzone or only with KT? I feel like it's one of these teams that the howling issue often happens.
I want to say Kingzone, but could just be focused. Oh my goodness,
10
everyone
teams?
is howling. We're on the howling abyss.
We are on the howling abyss. All 10 players is what Joel said in our ear. So
Still the howling abyss.
yeah, it is a lot of howling going on. So audio issue. Thankfully, we're spreading it around. Hopefully that means that it's not just one person getting their head exploded.
I mean, we had some audio issues in the rehearsal.
Did too. We had a bit of
we
hurling.
spook them?
Oh, God. Maybe the audio issue had already happened to all of the headsets, and it's infected the entire room.
Uh-oh. There's some people using headsets in the crowd. Now I'm concerned for them.
Exactly.
We don't want them to have an audio issue.
Wait, maybe they've got an audio issue right now. Maybe they could tell us. Can we put up a fan sign? If anyone's listening to the English broadcast, please put up a fan sign and
If
let
we
us know.
phone a friend about this audio issue, do we make it better or worse? I'm sticking with worse.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really visited the Want to Be a Millionaire rules recently. It's been resolved now, though. The Howling Abyss has been gotten rid of.
Thankfully. Summoner's Rift. Bring it back.
Yeah, we need to. I mean, it's not ARAM time. Although, imagine best of 5 series deciding match on Howling Abyss.
All right, you solo cast. I'll go do something else.
Hey, we used to have blind pick. Oh, dear. Well, we are back in there, and hopefully the KT cheerleader can get us a little cheer here.
Double cheer.
Oh, we're doing it again. Oh, they were ready. All the KT fans saved up their energy in order to give it to this last remaining chant that they had available to them. Kingzone cheating with 2. Now we are finally in. Hopefully the howling has abated.
Mada walked straight in and swept out the ward that was predictably placed on the bot side here by Kingzone. So exclusive vision on the bot side scuttle, unless, of course, you leash it all the way to the bot lane. Speaking of bot lanes and leashing, see Kha'Zix top side, Trundle bot side. Does mean that KT very likely to get to lane first.
Yeah, I thought that Deft looked a little bit like Smeb there, and then we did finally switch over. Deft highlighted here, and we'll see whether Prey and Gorilla's famous Alistar Kalista lane, the Kalista, man, this was certainly something that Gorilla and Prey were known for ever since Kalista has become a thing in League of Legends. No leash to come out for the Kha'Zix. Smeb just wants to get to lane and start dominating.
Kalista always had permaban status in Korea for longer than other regions because of what it did for the supports. It does empower melee supports, even in metas that weren't as kind to melee supports, in order to get through lane and then just have so much more agency, because the Alistar can start with a free knock-up and then still have everything open to do extra highlight plays. Looking at the LCK totals here with the Kalista versus Ezreal matchup over the history of LCK. It's going to be Kalista favored. Jhin has been the other historic matchup that we've seen rolled out quite a lot into the Ezreal this season. But the Kalista being brought back is another classic as well.
The thing that's interesting about illustrating this matchup is the fact that Ezreal has gone through so many changes in build path, whereas Kalista has been pretty much the same first two items since she was released. So we'll see whether Deft is going to be able to buck this trend, whether this current Ezreal iteration, which has got a lot of flexibility now, is going to change things up.
And what about where are we at in terms of praise itemization? Because the Rage Blade was the only notable change in the build path. It's usually abandoned until third or fourth item after all the extra cost increases and things like that. Outside chance, it's going to be considered at some point. Looking at the history here as well. This is just for score. 16-5, so very good win rate on that Kha'Zix, and played a lot of it in 2017, especially when the team was known about dominating the early game. Kha'Zix definitely a champion to go there. However, since the last time we've had Kha'Zix in the LCK, it is our first ultimate change Kha'Zix, where no longer do you have that ult evolve being the same way as it was in 2017 and 2018. Awkwardly, it's kind of a LeBlanc situation where 2018 Kha'Zix goes back to having the 3 invisibilities, but no longer just patrolling through all the brush and going invisible.
I think it's probably a good thing that Kha'Zix isn't permanently invisible in the enemy jungle, which was a little bit oppressive when he was the most popular jungler across all regions. Kingzone wanting to get a few levels before they can start trying to dominate this bottom side of the map. But at the moment, it is very, very even down there. You look at any Shen lane and you assume that it could get a little bit rough, as 300 health now onto UCal after a very good trade from B2D.
Very comfortable lane for Swain. The double ban does lead to a lane that he's very happily to set up around. Obviously, Malzahar will have different levels of threat as we hit level 6. We're far away from level 6, and that's why the trade's going so well from B2D. He's gone phase rush this game. Hasn't gone for Resolve Tree that we've seen other people do.
Yeah, also wishing that he had Ignite, as he could have almost killed UCal with another round of spells. UCal, interestingly enough, has gone for the Spellbook. So he can teleport back to this lane, but we'll see whether he's going to be changing to things like the Cleanse, because there are a lot of potential stuns to come in, although a lot of them are knock-ups as far as CC. On the side of Kingzone,
it's definitely the standard pickup onto the Malzahar. The only other keystone I've actually seen considered is something like a Predator to set up for the Malzahar ult plays. You're very happy to go Spellbook. You don't need Comet. None of the other ones really fit into the Malzahar identity. No Deathfire touch anymore, so I think Unsealed Spellbook gets him just fine. Can take Ghost to patrol around as teamfights come along. He'll just do his best through the laning phase, such as Malzahar things. Jungle matchups so far have been Ships in the Night, but the same amount of camps between the two.
Yep, Mata is going to be able to absorb some of these auto attacks coming in from Prey, wanting to dodge out on as many of these Ren stacks as he possibly can. Peanut now looking at grabbing his second Rift Scuttle in a row, as the Trundle has a lot of priority right now. Level is even into score, and the item advantage is there with the Kha'Zix, but decides that he doesn't want to actually go for anything. You can see a lot of wards actually around this mid lane for Kingzone.
It wasn't for him. That's the problem, is that Score had to deal with Swain pushing in and rotating over. The Alistar also had priority at the time, so there's no way to yield his item lead into a 1v1. He's getting outnumbered, and Kingzone have been very good about backing up Peanut to actually get and hit the Rift early. He was on the Nocturne when we saw him last a couple of days ago against Griffin, and really never got into the game when it came to actually making any big proactive plays on the Trundle, who is really about empowering his laners. Laners get first push, they push up, and that means the Trundle gets on the board.
Yeah, and also I want to talk, Papa, about how this KT composition works, because we talked about them getting ahead in the early game. At the moment, things are going absolutely great for Kingzone almost everywhere. However, I want to look at the mid lane and talk about how Malzahar actually dominates a lane, because it's not generally before level 6, and honestly not before level 9 when he can really insta-clear waves.
It's honestly about empowering Score to play aggressively, to actually make decisive picks around the mid lane, because Malzahar is the ultra pick champion. He's got a range suppression, so that lets you know the pick is what he's all about. At the moment, it is Ignite for even more kill pressure onto the Swain. If the Kha'Zix does show up, his bot lane.
Headbutt back onto Mata, who does use the flash, uses the taunt, but the flash comes in. First blood very easily going over to Gorilla. to pick up his opposite number in Mata. It's perfect. It's like an anime, and KT Rolster 0-1.
Very nice punishment comes through by Kingzone there. Mata just too far up the lane. Can't get away. His flash was always going to be followed because Trundle was already there. KT's supposed to try to answer this with a topside play, but it might have been spotted out by the control ward that was placed earlier. Still, a blue buff steal is not going to be a massive thing. The Gnar matchup gets better against the Cho'Gath. The Malzahar means that KT really want to play topside. Rift Herald post 10 minutes. That's going to be a big objective for KT. But they're hoping they can set the tempo once these ultimates are up, specifically on the Malzahar. But we'll have to wait and judge the execution to see if they can make that happen, because bot side, that seems like a jungler's paradise for Peanut.
Yeah, and you can see Unsealed Spellbook has been activated here from UCal as well. He's got the Ignite, so they want to be trying to go for one of these kills. Is Mata going to be able to get a control ward down? Instantly cleared by Peanut, who's just patrolling the bottom side.
Looks so much more comfortable when he knows that he has a skirmishing advantage over enemy junglers. Trundle does that as early as level 2 or 3 because of press the attack and his auto attack reset. Can get very nice trades. Skirmisher Saber, of course, complete as well. But because he's not on the Nocturne and really waiting for his opportunities, creating opportunities, being backed up by his lanes already when it comes to Kingzone. A big difference in the Kingzone we've seen post-Rift.
Yeah. Khan goes back. He's got double Doran, so a bit feeling the pressure on this bottom side of the map. The Negatron Cloak already completed here from Smeb, so definitely going that lane build with the Wit's End. UCal, you can see he's starting to be able to clear waves. He's got that Lost Chapter picked up already. As KT want to get some lane control here down on the bottom side. Now that Deft has the Sheen, it is much more easy to do.
We saw Keen punished for the Wit's End rush yesterday for the Afrika Freaks when, of course, that was a crazy triple smite game, but basically he never got to lane against an AP threat and got lane swapped on. Because it's not Kalista Thresh, who are kind of the ultimate lane to unleash on the map. Thresh roams through, the Kalista takes first turret, and good things happen. Kalista Alistar is more likely to have an extended laning phase against Ezreal and Shen. He knows he's very likely to get a lot of value in the side lane as a teleport user against teleport Cho'Gath and teleport Swain. So he's already got the Wit's End, no turrets have gone down, and that means that Smeb and UCal should now have quite a lot of pressure mid and top side.
Can they actually get anything out of it is the question. Wit's End completed now for Smeb. Now this is going to be against the flow as UCal, he was the one that picked up the Ignite, but now it is going to be Peanut looking for a gank here in the mid lane. Remember, UCal does have that shield available from the passive. Gorilla's going to turn up on top of a ward, going for this potential 3-man gank. Score turns up, KT playing slowly, allowing Score to build items together, wants the warrior enchant before he can start really getting on and assassinating some of these squishier targets.
But look at BDD in the mid lane. He got double ban, and now he has map hacks with double control ward top and the control ward bot side for basically perfect vision. This means that Swain is under almost no threat from the usually super scary duo of the Malzahar and the Kha'Zix that have one rotation on most mid laners. Speaking of rotations, Gorilla's back bot lane, but for now, just lying in wait.
Yeah, looking for the 1 versus 2, then the second player for the team without as many players turns up for the gank. It's not necessarily going to work out.
This is a pretty predictable play. We already talked about the top side Rift Herald, and that's why we see UCal tending towards the top side, but Kingzone are bringing friends, and they don't seem to want to give up a free Rift Herald. They seem to know they're diagnosing it. At this point, they're walking up for it. They expect it to be started.
Well, they really want to take this one down. The eye is there, so they should be able to actually burst this one as Shelly does a lot of damage. Stand United comes in. Will the smite actually be there as Peanut? Oh, he doesn't smite it, but eventually picks it up as now Smeb wants Mega Knight, but he doesn't get it. It's 2 free kills for Kingzone as everyone's just too squishy on the side of KT. Khan now just tanking forward, and the Malzahar just can't do anything. Headbutt Pov, back off cooldown, and Peanut gets another one. It's 4-0. It feels like Kingzone can do this to KT any day of the week.
It's a 4-0 in a 4v5. It's the dream for Kingzone DragonX. It's like the history never happened, and it was actually just another game of Kingzone versus KT. 6-0 on the year. Gorilla gets into the backline. Peanut picks up the Rift Herald. Smeb never even actually gets any value out of his ult. UCal doesn't ult either. KT are just surprised that Kingzone have fully committed and engaged so cleanly, and that just means everyone goes down.
And Score just stood there trying to get the smite off on the Rift Herald. Wasn't actually in range for it, had his flash up and just did nothing and died. Unfortunate team fight there for KT, but it was well collapsed on by Kingzone to understand that they had the damage, had the tankiness, and they could take down this KT roster pretty easily. Demonstrated that they certainly can. The game's certainly not over at this point, but 2,000 gold at 12 minutes. It's feeling like it's getting there. It's feeling certainly like a Kingzone versus KT game in 2018.
The only reminiscent game like this for Kingzone in the recent memory was their Kindred game, where they had 3 outer turrets down at 15 minutes, a big lead, but weren't able to close the game till about 35, 40 minutes in, and they got turned on and they ended up losing that one. In this particular game, it's a very different composition. It's a tank jungler who can leash the Baron himself. They have very good Baron turn, very good engage if the Alistar is able to get access to the backline, and Gorilla seems like he's on form today to be able to pull that off. They have very good Baron secure and threat with Rend and Smite and the Beast also. So Kingzone have tools to answer some of their recent poor play around the Baron, and they have an early gold lead, so you're right, it is feeling eerily like a classic Kingzone versus KT game, rather than an extension of Kingzone's recent struggles and KT's recent supremacy.
Now Kingzone are going to be able to continue it. First brick looks like it will be going down here in the mid lane as Gorilla. He's set up, he's got Unbreakable Will available to him as well, and KT, they know that there is just no option for them as the outer turret mid lane is going to be taken down. Stats for Kingzone as far as getting that first turret in the mid lane and then winning the game are pretty damn high, if memory serves.
It's been a different season, but it shouldn't change, and Kha'Zix from behind. Not been able to see the Kha'Zix make anything happen on the Rift at all, so Kingzone's draft has certainly paid off in spades. First pick Trundle after 3 jungle bans, also looking like a very nice coup to come through for Kingzone.
Yeah, and now Executioner's calling to be picked up by Score, so even going to delay his second item unless he goes Mortal Reminder second. Kingzone now going to be able to grab a relatively free Mountain Drake. This is on a silver platter, and their lead is only continuing to grow. First turret certainly helping out there. Def looking to clean up the bottom wave of minions. Pressure is all over this map for Kingzone, but especially on the bottom side. And we know historically that hasn't been where Kingzone have played around. Prey and Gorilla used to being on an island. This time around, Peanut focusing down there a lot until that Rift Herald happened, and then shifting control up there and allowing Gorilla to roam up with him as well. Really has taken control here for Kingzone, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, Kingzone's composition was the one that was going to be a little bit more slow-moving. Remember, this was the steamroller, and it's already starting to steamroll.
Can't argue with you on that analogy at all, Atlas. You are certainly on the mark. If we talk about how KT's comp was supposed to play around, we already talked about pick on the top side, the aggressive play with the Malzahar. They've got a pick comp. They really only have single target damage. Malzahar ult into a Q from the Kha'Zix into a couple of Mystic shots, a death, and then you take an objective in a 5v4, making a Malzahar play happen when you have no vision control or no real control over the map, which is what happens when you are a couple of thousand gold behind and have lost the last couple of skirmishes, is really tricky to do. So actually increasing the pace of the game with the Malzahar is the one thing that right now KT will be impossible to try and do, and that's why they're trying to make down-tempo plays, just finding turrets somewhere.
Well, they're going to try and find a kill here as well onto Khan. Spirit's Refuge there from Mata does absolutely nothing, but they are still able to grab the kill. Will now be able to trade this outer turret bottom lane most likely for the turret on the top side, but looks actually like KT are just going to give up on it, head back home, and try and take inner turrets, meaning they'll be trading down unless Smeb's able to grab this one by himself. Minion wave not yet there for Kingzone on the bottom side, so Score and Smeb should have enough to be able to take this one down. Kingzone pretty heads-up backs are going to get out of the way of the inner turret that would have been defended by KT to continue their tempo advantage. Around this map, 3,000 gold is approximately the lead here for Kingzone.
Vision of Empire was actually really important there because it stopped each of the ranged minions taking 2 shots. They were only getting 1 turret shot to go down. They ran out of minions, couldn't get the turret. Now Smeb is overextended, sticking around. His old teammate in Gorilla is here as well.
Flash is going to come in, doesn't get the headbutt, and Polvs anyway. So Gorilla not going to be able to find that one.
Doesn't get a trade of flashes as well. Not the best moment ever from Gorilla. Bit of a donation on his flash. Score hits level 11. Wait and see what the second evolve is. So far he has evolved the claws, going back to the old build.
Yep, the Q was pretty standard, but now, until the ultimate was the biggest ridiculousness on the map. Seems like it has certainly reverted. Kha'Zixes that I see tend to evolve the wings at level 11. However, I'm in solo queue, and that's a very different story. Oh, Score, he's just going to get sandwiched. Peanut and Gorilla looking to try and take him down. Not going to be able to get there just yet. Ignite and Subjugate will tick down, but not enough in order to take down the Kha'Zix. A lot invested to try and get that one done, but they do get the flash from Score, which is important.
Kingzone aren't interested in making even trades. They feel like they are far enough ahead. They should never be trading 1-for-1 or even a kill on 1-for-1. And you saw before, Smeb is going in aggressive, but this wasn't the time, you'd think.
Doesn't have the hop, but Mata is in here. Smeb gets into Mega Gnar, wants to find a big Gnar into the wall, but he used it, and nothing is going to come of it. PDD goes low, but isn't going to die. Prey doesn't even need to get down there, and KT now desperately trying to defend a very low turret, which is their last remaining outer on the map.
Smeb had very shallow coverage vision, but he did have a lot of vision, thought he was fine. Instead, the river was actually where Kingzone were, the one place he couldn't see, and then looks really sheepish trying to make an aggressive play when the cavalry was going to be there first, so bit of a mistake there from Smeb. It wasn't relentless aggression because he had quite a lot of defensive vision for a dive, but it wasn't a dive, it was straight down the river. Smeb goes down, and KT Rolster continued to lose control of the map against Kingzone DragonX.
Good thing for KT is that UCal can now just basically set down some Malefic Visions and throw in his little pets and should be able to take down a minion wave pretty easily, even up against Prey's Kalista, who, once he gets that Runaan's Hurricane, can also get rid of everything at once. So KT might be able to buy themselves some pressure back, some space back, utilizing the Malzahar's ability to buy some time dealing with minion waves. Khan gets back down bottom side as Deft versus Khan is what we saw earlier on.
96 health on this outer turret. KT would love to pick up there first. And Deft wants to poke it down and not die to this Cho'Gath.
Khan very tanky though, so happy just to pack it up, tank up all these minions, and defends the turret relatively easily. Deft couldn't step forward despite everything being on cooldown from the Cho'Gath. Doesn't want to be tanking turret there. As you can see, Smeb has done a lot of damage so far this game, but I feel like the dominance of the Swain hasn't been represented in the damage he's done. As there's the flash from Khan. He wants Ezreal for breakfast, and he's going to get it very easily as well.
Bit of a deep breath there from Deft. He had his flash up, but the silence into the feast was enough. The Trundle just got an assist, really, and it's going to be the third outer turret going down. The side of KT Rolster, the map control still counting against them. Too easy for the Cho'Gath. Another mistake by KT Rolster, and we're getting already to that eerie old territory of this feeling like more of the same, even though it just really shouldn't be Atlas.
Yeah, I feel like we've gone back in time. Everything else about the history of these two teams in the last couple of days seems irrelevant, as KT versus Kingzone is KT versus Kingzone, and it's in 2018, and that spells Kingzone every time. But it's only 20 minutes into this game. Baron is going to be spawning KT. Remember, this is a pick comp, so if they can actually get the picks, theoretically, they can pick their way back into this game. But I can see you shaking your head there, Papa.
It's just
going
weird.
To be difficult.
Isn't it fun how the LCK, it's fun for some people, but this LCK this season really does have a lot of rock, paper, scissors situations where it just seems, after an early game like this, that it's going to be an extension of Kingzone always beat KT. KT seems to be the team that has Griffin's number. In knockout matches, Gen G often beat KT. There's so many interesting historic points that are sticking around, that are persisting, even though conventional logic and even recent logic would suggest that things have changed. An early game like this seems to suggest that not much has changed about Kingzone versus KT, and to me the polarizing difference is Peanut's impact on the game. Both Kingzone's junglers have been pretty anonymous post-Rift Rivals. This is the Peanut of old, and this Peanut has really put KT into the ground.
He has, and Score hasn't done anything at all apart from leashing the Rift Herald for Kingzone and then dying. That has been basically what he's done. Of course, doesn't have a lot of options once the early game goes as incredibly awry as it did. Kha'Zix does need to find positional advantage. They want to get man advantage as well. Find some outweighing scenarios on the map somewhere, but at the moment, with Kingzone's map control that they have, vision control everywhere as well. I mean, look at this. The river on the top side of the map is littered with wards. The whole thing is just glowing.
Reason for that, not just, of course, Baron supremacy, but because KT can kind of cheat with a comp like this. If they put down 3 control wards and Malzahar ults someone, then you can actually just get a 5v4, take a Baron, and win the game. So you do have the ability with a Malzahar comp to just move a triangle of vision as aggressively as you can get away with in a game where you're winning. Obviously, it's on the enemy objectives. In this sort of a game, it has to be on your own objectives. And then you have a burst build. It was Trinity Force first, it's a Malzahar, it's a Kha'Zix. It's very much about bursting one person. But if they never have the ability to set up that vision, if you have to come to King Zone, if they force everything on their terms, never will we see the Malzahar ult into Kha'Zix burst actually be relevant. So King Zone can't afford to scrimp and save on control wards in a game like this, even when they're winning.
Yep, and KT also not quite hitting their item timings in the same way that King Zone are. You've got the Renan's Hurricane coming in alongside the Blade of the Ruin King, something that we talk about on Kalista every single time, no matter which meta we're in, as well as the Zhonya's and the Rod of Ages fully stacked up, and just a casual Oblivion Orb coming in for BDD. This Swain going to be doing relevant damage. 2 items on everyone else. Gargoyle's Stoneplate is massive for the Trundle.
Merc Scimitar, a very obvious third item here for the Kalista, who goes double lifesteal, Bloodthirster, and a Blade of the Ruin King, or just the aforementioned Merc Scimitar. So yes, very natural itemization. Deft has hit his very standard power spike, a little bit late, but still mostly on point now. But how much does it matter, Atlas? It doesn't feel like KT are going to get a pick unless King Zone makes a pretty significant mistake. I believe it was 9 stats on the Cho'Gath. 9 stacks, I should say, as he's been able to have a very varied palette eating Drakes and enemy champions. Oh my.
Yeah, he's just monstrous. Score did go for the W Evolve second. True Barrage does get a lot of value. Prey down to half health from Deft, who's playing very aggressively. Does understand that he's very strong at this particular moment. Softens up the King Zone roster and does buy KT space in their own jungle that was being owned by King Zone. They do back away.
So let's think about King Zone. What do they have? They have very, very strong Baron secure. They have a fast Baron as well as Kalista. Pretty reliable on that. Their Baron turn is decent. It's not fantastic unless Gorilla can actually get access to the backline, and being able to pull that off is very difficult because by the time you start actually DPSing the Baron, all your wards get cleared and people will check brush. But King Zone, we mentioned, have a much stronger Baron draft than the last time they got a big lead. That was in a Kindred draft, like we said earlier this game. So how can they actually find a way, King Zone, to make this game around the Baron that they are, on paper, set up to take quickly and safely?
Yeah, they've got Feast and Rend at the same time, plus a Smite. So you're exactly right, Pop. It feels like an MVP game where they got about 3 Smites. Just got them in champion form instead. Smeb, with his 2 items that he's picked up, is able to stay ahead in farm, but doesn't seem to really matter as Steph just arcane shifts over the Pillar of Filth.
How do you get vision against a Malzahar comp? Because walking in too deep to the enemy jungle does sound like the Malzahar dream. You wait till Malzahar's showing top lane, which he'll do. He's Spellbook, he has Teleport. Eventually he's going to push out waves. You invade with Alistar. X can really be any of the champions because they're all bruisers. Maybe not the Kalista. And you put down the deep vision. You need to put it in the conventional spots where you need to know about the enemy, but also a flanking ward, because they do have some threat of Righteous Glory, Cho'Gath, or Swain, or Alistar get into the backline. And then from there, make the game around Baron. So getting that deep vision is about timings. You want to avoid and minimize the chance of a Malzahar pick, but getting deep vision is what is separating King Zone from closing out on what has been a fantastic early game.
It was a fantastic early game, but how long do we have to talk about it like a fantastic one until we start talking about them throwing leads like this that they did very recently? Because that gold lead has not changed. In the last 8 minutes, I was talking about a 3,000 gold lead, not 8 minutes, 13 minutes. I was saying a 3,000, this sort of gold lead at about 13 minutes into this game, and it hasn't changed.
Well, the side waves haven't been able to be pushed out, and they haven't found a way to get the Baron vision, so it is another one of those, well, we kind of won and got all the early objectives, the easy objectives quickly, and are now being stalled out by game pace. So some of it is understandable, but if at 35 minutes we're seeing this game still be I push out a wave, you push out a wave, we all push out waves, then yes, that is when things need to be looked at. And we'll see at 30 minutes, the diagnosis there is Smeb has no vision, not even a little bit of vision.
The most no vision.
Yes.
He's going to teleport because he knows that he is going to be under fire. Teleports back to his turret. Going to do so very easily. Lots of pings on the top lane outer turret as King Zone were out of position. KT do get the inside track on the mid lane as well. Deft going to be very, very safe. Now has Merc Treads alongside a casual Last Whisper that he picked up on his last back, but he's still behind. In farm, in goes Khan, as Yukao could be in trouble. He'll have to use the ult if he wants to try and get out of the way of this one. He flashes, has to use the stopwatch. Flash comes in from Khan, as now stands United down, but he's going to have the feast score. jumps in, wants to try and now get something back. Spirit's Refuge not enough, but they trade 1 for 1. The big tank now dead for Kingzone could be big for KT, but if they pull back Martyr and take him down, it's going to be a huge problem. That pillar, not exactly the one that BDD wanted, but they'll trade 1 for 1, and that probably works out for KT.
Khan saw another solo kill as if it was 5 minutes ago, but the game state has changed. They didn't have deep vision. They weren't threatening anyone on the map, were they, Kingzone DragonX? It was just about the 1v1, and that is not the 1v1 or the trade that you're expecting. Teleports will be up to return. Speaking of teleports, BDD back in the mid lane, but a 1 for 1 with how well the early game went and the early game turret lead is not what Kingzone are looking for.
Also getting a kill on to score is actually very important. We were talking all yesterday about kills going to junglers and it not being a great thing. If it's a Kha'Zix, it's a great thing, because he's going to have to try and cling to some relevance as we move into the later stages of the game. That Duskblade now going to be augmented by some more damage potentially. I'd like to see a Guardian Angel as soon as possible. Oh, True Shot Barrage was very well timed, but the rend is going to be there. Shouldn't get excited when there's the old Callista in the Dragon Pit.
You couldn't help it. KT Rolster's in the game, so I understand that the vocabulary
As soon as I said it, I was triggered by myself.
Again, you have excitement on the mind because of the meme, and thus you go to excitement for non-meme reasons, and then the meme presents itself. Such is a KT Rolster series. You do feel, though, given that Kha'Zix is, 1,000 gold behind the enemy, he is an assassin jungler against bruisers who will turn on him and kill him instantly if he jumps in. Going to be very hard to leverage items on Kha'Zix.
Yeah.
Maybe Baron speed, maybe Malzahar plus Kha'Zix has never been actually the pairing they set up for. Watching the replay here, and you can understand why Khan thought this would be an easy solo kill. It was set up to be so, got the silence to interrupt the ult, but when he flashes, this is where Khan should say, crap, I don't have vision, or at least spend a bit more time chasing, gets frustrated by the Shen ultimate. It does end up being a trade of kills, but you're just not at the point of the game where a trade of kills is good for Kingzone.
Nope. And Gorilla, of course, did survive, able to utilize the ultimate coming in from Prey, so that's going to be all right, as Gorilla may have actually pushed a little bit too far. Again, Fate's Call is going to be utilized, and Prey gets the cow out of trouble, but now that safety button is on cooldown yet again. Execution
Seems to be on the side of KT, despite the early game being a little bit off. The Kingzone's comp is very easy to execute. Make it about the Baron, Kingzone should win. In a true 5v5, they have the stronger team fight, and also, if you can just disengage the Malzahar ultimate, you can fight front to back and know that Callista should be doing damage at every moment. There should be no one getting there. You would imagine in a extended 5v5, unless Vision can really juke out the Callista. So with those two realities, waiting for Kingzone to find that Baron control that for now is still not being able to be in their hands at 30 minutes.
Smeb as well, able to duel out two people near the top side of the map to try and grab that vision control over the Tri-Brush. Deft, very, very comfortable here in this 1 versus 2 that was the situation earlier in the mid lane, meaning that KT do get themselves a little bit of space to maneuver their Malzahar around and put him in position to try and get some of these picks. They'd love to be able to get Peanut while he's face-checking some of these brushes that he feels comfortable to do at this particular point in the game. Prey decides to take 2/3 of his health bar to the Baron. That is a bad news story for Kingzone. Again, going to have to back away. And that gold lead, man, 3,000 is certainly the aim of the game. As KT sitting on top of a ward is a problem. Arcane Shift gets Deft out of the way of damage. A Score has to leave. Has that evolved now as well, considering level 16 is Mata? Okay, he's just dead.
Khan was able to get the Rupture. That, of course, opens up the Swain passive. Nice flanking spot by Khan. Gets in the 1 kill. Now, Mata will be right back in the thick of it in 30 seconds. He has a Stand United still open. Kingzone should get a lot of Baron vision here. They're going to start the Baron. They can try to secure it. They can also turn. They have a lot of options to Kingzone DragonX.
Yeah, you can feel Score's heart rate going up like you wouldn't believe. He has to now try and outsmite a Feast and a Rend. Fate's Call, again, going to come down. Doesn't get the initial knockup, but good God, the Malzahar is dead before the fight even starts. The Callista going to be grabbing a kill on that one as Deft. He's on top side. Smeb in there as well. Deft is going to take a lot of damage from the Swain as we've got Meganar in here from Smeb. Has Flash. Can he get the 5-man? No, decides to flash away instead. An understandable, more reserved play, but KT do get them off the Baron, which I feel is a lot more reserved than they could have necessarily been in that instance.
I think going for a Smite Steal is so low percentage. They have good ranged poke. You poke them away. You noticed multiple members going below half. that will force Kingzone to disengage. They're not MVP. They are a very conservative team around the Baron. Different teams have different profiles around how much risk they'll take, even with the secure. Kingzone are not the sort of team to roll the dice there. They'll look for a better time. That means that KT do lose some summoners and some members, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like it's more of an 80-20 Baron when you've got all of this secure available. Teleport going to be utilized. True Shot Barrage to get some extra vision. They do have the control ward in the pit here as Yukal. He's going to lose that immediately. Smeb holds onto his teleport and tries to get some lane advantage here for KT.
They see that Smeb is exhausted. They know the teleport is up, but they're on the Baron again. This is where their comp was drafted for, around this objective.
Well, Gorilla looking for the flanking play. Score knows exactly what is going on as he clears out some vision. Another teleport to come down. It's exactly what KT need, but maybe Gorilla is off on his own a little bit too far. Nope, has the outer turret, will be okay. This game of cat and mouse is only continuing to extend the game. KT going to be happy about that, but it's getting better and better for Kingzone as they get these summoner spells that are so important for them securing the Baron or being able to get side lane supremacy.
And so many times in recent memory in their tough matches, remember, KT coming off Afrika SKT, Griffin, Genji as a schedule, some of our best teams in Korea. We've had situations where KT, on paper, had the worst team fight draft. Every draft can team fight, but some drafts are more set up for them than others. And they pulled off Miracle Realm Warp plays. They pulled off fantastic team fighting against Genji last time out. They're looking for picks now.
They might be able to grab this one onto Peanut as well. Subjugate comes down. They get the flash as well. Stone Plate utilized, and Kingzone's jungler has to use everything in that moment to survive.
KT's status of having top 5 players in so many roles has led to super plays from Mata a couple of times, some other members of KT. A super play could still win them a game that seemed so one-sided for Kingzone earlier.
Well, Mata's going to flash. Deft wanting to try to get the damage in there. They're spending a lot trying to grab this Shen, who's relatively tanky at this point in the game, and Yukal now backing him up. A lot of buttons pressed, and the Stand United still available. Mata doesn't have the flash, so these taunt plays not going to be as huge, but he'll get all of his health back by heading back to base. The Baron has been started yet again. KT, no vision as they move in. Score has Stand United on top of him. Mata getting out of the way of this pillar as it's now so low. It's within Feast and Rend range as KT want to be able to get it. They can't. And Kingzone are going to turn off the Baron as well. Demonic Ascension going to be utilized. Gorilla's going to die. And now KT find themselves in a 4v5 scenario. BDD just going to get ulted. Killed in the suppression. Yukal grabs that as Score, just shepherding Peanut as they know he doesn't have his flash. Leaps in, Khan has the rupture, doesn't land it. 2 picks go to KT, but the Baron to Kingzone, which is exactly what they wanted.
By having so many Baron and teamfight tools there, Kingzone are not interested in a 5v5. They don't feel like the terrain suits them. They want to play in the open with Baron buff and give KT no good options. You can't poke away the minions, you can't 5v5 in the open. But they lose 2 members to do so. KT will be able to get an Infernal, which of course will have some value. Although Prey and Peanut, they want to fight.
Yeah, Peanut's going to pop into the pit. Score! He gets the smite. Red buff's going to kill him, but the smite was the important part. Getting the pick, huge for Kingzone now that they have a Baron buff to utilize. Top side of the map, Yukal's going to be shoving this top wave forward, but they need his wave clear if they're going to try and stave off the minions, even though it's going to be really difficult against the Baron.
So make the decision to go for that fight on Infernal because the Malzahar is top. Speaking of Malzahar, we go over the Baron play. Smite was used early, which did suggest they were going to try and finish the Baron. They get it. It's Rend. It's a Cho'Gath as well. The turn happens, but Smeb bounces so intelligently upwards that there's no threat on him. Gets the last auto attack onto the Alistar, and now they have to respect the Mega Gnar bar. There's flash ult up. Malzahar finally gets what he was set up to do. Deft still has his stopwatch because it's been pretty non-interactive for him for the majority of the game. Kingzone will go back to side lanes. They'll go back to utilizing their Baron, but KT are still finding some counter punches when it felt like Kingzone had laid a knockout punch about 25 minutes ago.
Exactly. 5,000 gold now going to be the margin of that lead, but it's 5 turrets to 3 in favor of Kingzone. Mata finds a taunt, but he's all on his own. Spirit's Refuge going to keep him alive for the moment. Death clearing out minion waves. Khan going to have to be careful here against Smeb, who's got a lot of damage. Gargoyle Stone Plate is in. He's just going to feast up on the Gnar. Wants to get the rupture, but doesn't find it. Mega Gnar gives him a bunch of his health back, and BDD's teleport is going to save the Cho'Gath. Kingzone having to back away, though, is a big deal. KT holding onto their base is massive in this game.
Defensive ultimate from the Cho'Gath. Knew he wasn't in feast range, but just wanted him to disengage as the Mega Gnar was about to show up. no Warmog's in the build, so he actually has to go and leave for a while. Does the Cho'Gath has gone for profiting off the stacks that he's picked up with the Gargoyle Stone play for immediate teamfight impact rather than the extended laning phase against the Gnar.
Also intelligent mathematical stat choices as well, given stats and health working if you grab them in even amounts together, as opposed to stacking one or the other. Does look like he is going to be going towards the Warmogs. Now has that Kindle Gem. We'll see whether he can actually complete it, and he does, as he heads back to base now.
Helps him in the 1v1, which will still be relevant to some degree in this game. Could still be a game of flank teleports.
Still one more inner turret remains here for Kingzone as KT picking up the minion waves, heading towards them. Still able to bring it into within a 5,000 gold game for KT. This is exactly what they want. Of course, the composition wanted to be ahead from the beginning, but it's amazing that they've been able to keep Kingzone at bay for what feels like the last 25 minutes.
It is some of it a reality of the meta, but like you mentioned, it's been a little bit of inaction by Kingzone and smart action by KT. So everything interacts, coalesces, and we are still available to be commentating a game at 38 minutes that seemed decided at about 8.
Yeah. We were ready to sort of talk about KT's blunder into Kingzone just in general, wanting to see whether they can turn around Game 2, which they certainly haven't been able to do this year. But here we still are, KT still in it. Still in it, feeling like they have a fighting chance as they pick up minion waves, flying towards them over and over again. The items start coming in. You've got a Rage Blade now on Smeb. Khan, he will not be out of lane against this Gnar.
It's definitely one of those if we had a Baron moments for KT, because if they have a Baron, Cho'Gath can't wave clear. And like you say, the hyper procs on every second auto when you build up the Ginsu's Rage passive, and that is something that Cho'Gath cannot deal with.
100 gold power play.
It's been very well repelled by the side of KT Rolster, getting those instant kills to mean there was only 3 buffs on the side of Kingzone, and they haven't lost an inhibitor turret in the first Baron. If they can get a Baron, whether that's a just utterly miracle smite, this is a very, very unlikely smite steal for the Kha'Zix, or it's getting a pick, which they can still do with the team comp they have. KT Rolster see a future where a secure Baron, break the base, and maybe win the game.
Or it's potentially KT going for a trade and then trying to win a fight after that Baron with an Elder Drake that is going to be spawning in about 2 minutes' time. Score just getting himself around the jungle. A bit of forward vision available for KT, but moving down towards the bottom side. Now just wanting to stave off any sort of siege scenario. Kalista, not a champion that's very good at sieging, which is why we talk about the Baron this entire time. Kingzone will need it if they want to try and break open the base.
Kind of a weird scenario when you look at a team comp and you say, who is the easiest person to kill? It's probably the Alistar on the side of Kingzone, because it's double lifesteal onto Prey. Will soon be triple lifesteal when he finishes Merc's Scimitar. Swain is Swain, he has Zhonya's, and a second stopwatch because he did not use his perfect timing stopwatch for 5 seconds of stasis. We saw this from Viper on Griffin earlier in the season, so that could be a big play there. He's actually going to end up having to sell it for a QSS, so no 5 seconds of stasis denied from the Swain. There's a lot going on here in terms of tankiness. Only the Alistar is someone who can be taken down, and that's already pretty comically difficult. Kingzone are very, very tanky, and KT have realized this. All their builds are about getting 1 kill. The moment you see only a single Dirk item onto a Kha'Zix, it lets you know that he realizes it needs to be wombo down the Cho'Gath, wombo down the Trundle, maybe even the Alistar. Those are the real options, and then in a 5v4, find a way to maneuver a win.
I'm just looking at Yukal though. He's got that Morellonomicon available to him. If he ults anyone, given the fact that he's got his Sweet Hat, Ludens, and Void Star for the ultra damage build path, it will be very difficult for anyone to survive, honestly, given the fact that he does do a lot of damage at this game and stop at this stage of the game, and will be augmented by the rest of his team layering it on top. But that's a really good rupture to come down, and in goes Smarter. He does have the stopwatch to keep him alive, but this is more a disengaged play. The bouncy castle's in there. Armada not going to survive this time, but Gorilla, the follow-up damage is there, and now Score looking for the flank. Doesn't get it, loses majority of his health bar as Deft is arcane shifting forward. They hold on to the Nethergrass from Yukal. He does still want to find it onto someone, but Kingzone now with the pick again against the Shen. See whether they can make anything of it.
Really good call on the play-by-play there, Atlas. It was a disengage from Shen. That sounds weird to say, but Shen knows that if he goes in with a taunt, KT can't follow up like that. That's not how the comps are built. You press Ravenous Flock, you can't actually get into melee range of Cho'Gath Swain, so everyone else backs away, no one actually goes in with the Shen. Shen is only dead for another 10 seconds and can instantly rejoin with Stand United, but they don't have the map control, and you talked about trades, it seems KT is going to have to take one.
Yep, they're going to go for it here, understanding 4v5. It is going to be the Baron taken down. Of course, the single target damage available from KT, given this Elder Drake's health bar at the moment, is certainly going to be very high, so it will be Elder for Baron buff, and now KT are tasked with holding on to these minion waves. Good God, that Pierce did about 1 billion damage to all of those minions. That was beautiful to watch. I want the slow-mo replay on that one, but I don't know whether OGN's going to give it to us. UCal also able to clear out minion waves very easily, but top wave very far away from KT's turrets. Mid wave in the middle of the lane, but a large stack moving towards Kingzone and Deft with some space. Does mean that KT will be able to buy at least the duration of the Elder Drake as far as Kingzone not being able to siege against this comp.
KT do a lot of work when it comes to proccing the true damage coming through from this Elder Drake. They have the Malzahar. Dots are one of the best ways to work with the true damage because it reapplies it every single stack, does so much damage. Does the Malzahar in a scenario like this? Ezreal has poke, the Gnar has poke, even the Jungle Assassin in the Kha'Zix has poke as well. So actually grouping as 4 or 5, which is what Kingzone's comp does much better than splitting, is a risk that you'll be poked out if you're not a Warmogs user like Cho'Gath and Trundle.
Yeah. Khan now going to start on the split push. Of course, not going to be able to necessarily go 1 versus 1 against Smeb, but he's very, very tanky. It's going to take him a long time to die, and is going to be very safe down here. Has teleport available if he needs to collapse for a team fight with the rest of his team. KT are grouping around this area because it's the only place that Kingzone do have pressure, and intelligently, KT playing around vision and understanding and allow Smeb to move all the way up this lane. This is once again going to be a very low impact Baron unless Kingzone can turn it around with the minute of Baron that they have over the Elder Drake that KT picked up.
And we go all the way back. We rewind back 50 minutes or so to picks and bans. We knew what KT were trying to do, accelerate the game, get the picks, win the game early, right? This is a 25-minute victory comp from KT. Yep. However, now at 44 minutes, they've been able to extend a game where they fell behind, and turret diving against this comp is super hard. Malzahar, for once, won't be in the middle of threats. He can actually use his ultimate, and with the true damage burn, you can get kills. So they're repelling the pushes quite well ultra late, and ultra late, barring some big engage, Kingzone are going to be frustrated. Maybe in 5 seconds when they have a minute's worth of Baron after KT's Elder runs out, they could try something. But you get the execution wrong, you could just straight up lose.
Yeah, 6-item Malzahar as well. I mean, it looks like these Baron buff minions don't actually have a Baron buff. Minute now on the clock though, and this is exactly when Kingzone want to try and start getting aggressive under these turrets. They do so. True Shot Barrage, decent damage, but that is going to spell the mid lane inhibitor turret's death. Inhibitor should fall afterwards, but KT, like you say, difficult to dive, difficult to move forward on, as Teleport now is going to get a very healthy Kingzone towards the inhib, and KT slowly losing out to the pressure. 30 seconds left on the Baron as, oh God. That is not the Smeb that you want, not the one that's going to die on his own. Mega Gnar in perfect timing there as the pillar is down, a great position. The Gnar to get back, but Prey's just going to get that one cheeky auto that locks him down. Peanut also very, very low as Deft safe on the backline, but that's 2 inhibitors down, and KT on the ropes next to their Nexus turrets. 1 minute power play when they had Baron, there's no Elder. Well executed by Kingzone. Difficult to win in this moment unless they find something big. Yep, Vision of Empire, pretty good, and that's going to get rid of the shield on UCal. Nexus turret is going to go down now as well as Deft pulled forward, but Arcane shifts out. He's very safe in this backline, but now in goes Gorilla, doesn't get it. The Pulverize isn't good enough, as the Nether Grasp is going to be enough to take down the support, but now UCal in a poor position, and BDD flashing forward. Demon Flare is going to do it. Kingzone looking for redemption against KT. They get it like they always do in 2018, and the Nexus falls.
Prey even clear.